So this is part two video on what to look out for when you are inspecting or want to buy a Peugeot vehicle with a THP engine. I will repeat again. If you don't know what THP engine is or what it looks like, you can go online and like, just search for it. You'll find different models of the engine series to know what they look like. But basically, they are turbocharged modern Peugeot engines. So one of the things to look out for is what we are looking at on the screen. It might appear or have different readings than what is showing right now on the screen. Like this one is showing engine oil pressure fault. You could see insufficient engine oil pressure or whatever. So once you see this fault, um, understand that most likely you may have to live with this fault. Not necessarily that that's what will happen, but you might end up, if you buy that vehicle, you won't be able to solve this problem easily. So it doesn't mean it will affect the power of the car or the way the car behaves or anything, but like I said, you might end up using the vehicle 1 year, 2 years, or however long you want to use the car with this fault keep popping up. Now, can it be solved? Yes, but man, it can be frustrating sometimes depending on what is causing it to solve it. Now, what are the usual causes of this symptom or warning? It could be the oil pressure, no, engine oil pump solenoid. Depending on the model, not all THP engine have that solenoid on the engine oil pump. Now, there are a way you can find that. If you are inspecting the vehicle, let's assume you are allowed to scan the car, which is expected or supposed to be. You could check to know if that engine has that oil pump solenoid valve uh, by going to parameter measurement or live test, depending on the scan tool you are using. You go to engine environment, and as you scroll down, you will see the oil pump. You see oil pump solenoid valve or something like that. You see the value as the engine is running. So if it's showing you if it doesn't show that value, if it doesn't show that oil pump at all on that page, then it means most likely the engine doesn't have that sensor or that solenoid on the oil pump inside the engine. So most times it could also be that a wrong engine was swapped in, because most people make that mistake. Let's assume the previous owner of the car had an issue, the engine had an issue, and the engine was replaced, and the current engine that they mounted did not have the solenoid on the oil pump, while the engine the car was produced with had that solenoid. So of course it means that it won't be connected. So the engine ECU will constantly keep seeking for that solenoid. So if it's not there, it will report that it's not working. So when you scan the vehicle, or when you go to that live test and check, and it's showing that the solenoid is the option is there that the car has that solenoid, but it's reading 0. What that means is most likely that engine is the wrong engine, or that somebody disconnected the solenoid, or truly that the solenoid is faulty, or is probably the wiring connector to the solenoid is faulty, or that the engine ECU is faulty, because it's the engine ECU that controls, or the connection to that solenoid comes directly from the engine ECU. So if they are, like I said, it could be the engine ECU, it could be the engine wiring harness, or the connection to the solenoid, or it could be the solenoid itself, or it could be that the solenoid is absent on the engine, or inside the engine. Or it could be that the engine is somebody changed to a wrong engine, or it could also be that somebody replaced the engine ECU. Maybe the car actually was produced with THP engine without that solenoid, but somebody replaced the engine ECU at some point, the previous owner, and then put the wrong ECU that works with that solenoid. So that ECU will keep searching for the solenoid, which is not there. So it will be reporting that there's something is wrong, that so now you see it there, that is, you'll be reading zero, no value. Instead of showing like 5%, 50%, 20%, depending on the acceleration and the rest, it won't read at all, it will be reading zero. So that's why I said, if you once you have if you are expecting a Peugeot car with this THP engine and showing you this fault, expect might not be that easy to solve this problem. Or even if it could be that easy, you might spend so much. It could require replacing the engine. It could require replacing the engine ECU. It could require changing the oil pump. Yeah, it could require changing the oil pressure, the engine wiring harness. Or it could require changing the solenoid. I could go on and on. I know there are cases where this fault will come up. Remember, I'm just pointing one particular cause. So that could cause this. In this case, we're talking about the oil pump solenoid valve. So there are cases where people will bring their vehicles, and this issue will be pointing at that what is causing this warning is that oil pump solenoid valve. I will be reading zero. You remove it, test it off the vehicle, it will be working very well. You put it back on the vehicle, it won't work. You buy a new one and put, it might start working. Only for it a day or two later, it stop working. Or it will just be working intermittently. Sometimes it will work, sometimes it won't work. Or had a case where somebody changed, he decided, you know what, he changed the oil pump. He bought a used one, mounted it, it started working. For about a month, it was working. Then I can't remember what happened, whether there was a work done on the engine or something. I can't remember, or maybe there was no work done. The fault came back, started giving the warning. The scans showed it was still coming from that oil pump solenoid valve. So it's possible that maybe the used one purchase has failed. But the problem, like I said, is when you remove the solenoid and test it off the vehicle, it works well. No issue. You put it back in the vehicle, it will be working intermittently. Sometimes it works, sometimes it will be reading zero. It won't work. Now, I had somebody else had that this warning, and the diagnosis narrowed it down to the oil pump solenoid valve. So in this case, I wasn't the one that did the job, but from what I gathered from him, he purchased a new pump, brand new pump with the solenoid, mounted it, and the fault went away. At least since the last time I spoke with him, he hasn't complained that the warning has come back. So, but then I don't see how the engine oil pump is related to this solenoid, because the solenoid is supposed to work independent of the pump. It's attached on it, but it doesn't mean, well, unless I could be wrong, but for me, I'm looking at the design. The solenoid is supposed to work even if the oil pump stop working. Or unless maybe I didn't get it right, as in looking at the design of the pump, that the pump is supposed to supply oil to the solenoid first before the solenoid can pump do its work. So anyway, that's so the point is, you could be spending, doing this, doing that, doing this, doing that, to know you could change the solenoid, issue will remain. You change this one, issue will remain. So I want you to understand, can it be solved? Yes, but then this is what you may have to deal with, at least while you are using the car. You could be lucky, the first thing you change, you solve the problem, but it could be unlucky, you change what is pointing out, the issue remains. So anyway, so another thing that can cause this warning, engine oil pressure fault, is the engine oil pressure sensor, which is separate from the engine oil solenoid valve, the solenoid valve that is attached on the oil pump inside the engine. Now this one is external, it's attached outside on the engine but not inside. So this is the oil pressure sensor, which almost every engine has, at least the petrol engine. I believe almost whether diesel or whatever, I believe they all have this sensor. So this can also cause that. It could be that the sensor is leaking, because once it starts leaking, the pressure will drop, because it has a plastic part, especially the connector side. I mean, where the connector goes onto the sensor. Yeah, so it could leak from there. It could also be that the sensor is broken, or that the sensor actually has failed. So, but all these things will point out when you scan the vehicle. It will show you which one that's actually causing it. If it's the oil pump solenoid valve or the oil pressure sensor. This sensor is usually is almost all the THP engine I've come across, at least that I've gotten close to or had to go to that area. This sensor, the pressure sensor, is attached on the oil pump, no, the oil filter housing, which is closer to the oil expansion. What's it called? Not expansion. Oil. Could call it oil heater or oil. Trying to remember the other name. Oil heat exchanger. So yeah, but they are all on that same assembly. So this sensor can cause it. Depending, you have to, until you scan the car, that's when you know if that's the cause of this warning. But then also remember that if this warning comes up, you might change the sensor. It could be that the sensor is actually doing its work by reporting that something is wrong, not necessarily that the sensor is faulty. So if it's reporting something is wrong and the sensor is okay, it means most likely it could be the connector, the wiring harness, or it could be the connector itself on the sensor that is causing the warning. It could be the wiring harness. It could also be your engine ECU. Again, the connection to that sensor comes direct from the engine ECU. So in case the engine ECU has a problem, it's not reading it well, or yeah, you could get this one. Or truly that there's something mechanically wrong inside the engine. It could be that your oil pump is weak, engine oil pump is weak or failing or has failed. It could be that your crankshaft bearings have worn, or something is wrong with your crankshaft, or that your camshafts have worn, or something is wrong, or it wasn't properly mounted, or something mechanical could actually be wrong with the engine. So the sensor will be doing its work by reporting pressure warning, oil pressure warning. But of course, how to deal with it, you start by changing the sensor first or inspecting it to know, depending on the warning, the kind of fault to bring out. Because depending when it's will be showing you a lubrication issue, it might bring out about different error codes or definition of that lubrication issue, pointing out it could be the oil pressures, the oil pump solenoid, or the oil pressure sensor. I mean, of course, the engine also has an oil solenoid valve, more like a VVT solenoid of what's it called? The solenoid for the that variable camshaft. Trying to remember the name. Depending on the engine, THP engine model, some have that solenoid too. One will be on the exhaust camshaft side, while the other will be on the intake camshaft side. So supplying oil to the what's this name? Trying to remember. Those who know understand what I mean. There is a variable camshaft sprocket. that one will show you its own fault. Most time, once you get that one, it won't tell you oil engine oil pressure warning. That if those solenoid are faulty, they don't show. At least the ones I've come across, it won't show you engine oil pressure fault or insufficient oil pressure. You know, it will just be telling you about the timing. What's the name of this thing? Man, I'm trying to remember. For THP engine, it has a specific definition. Well, okay, anyway, the point is this. If you are buying a THP Peugeot vehicle and you see this warning, you start the vehicle, sometimes the warning comes up immediately you start the car. Sometimes when you are doing the test drive, it will come up. Or when you scan the vehicle. Even if you scan the vehicle, it didn't show that fault. You didn't find any lubrication or issue on the engine ECU. I would suggest you take the car for a drive, come back and rescan the car. But most time while you're on the drive, it might come up. Even if the engine has this issue, that's maybe the sensor, any of those solenoid or sensor is faulty, and it works intermittently. It might not give you that warning while you are on the drive. Remember, you only have few minutes to drive the car, or few kilometers, 1 or 2 kilometers max. Unless you are lucky and the seller allows you to drive it longer or further from the place you guys take off from. So then it might come up at that time. So it depends. Like I said, especially if it's intermittent one, like if it's the one I explained earlier, that it could be the connector or something. In that case, it could ride the car for 1 hour without it showing. Especially if it's showing oil pump solenoid valve. So that first time you start the car, it will be reading, it will be working. You drive it for close to an hour, switch it off, start the car again, boom, the warning will come up. So that's why I say, in that case, it can be very frustrating trying to solve the problem, because if I change the solenoid, it won't go away. So meaning that solenoid was not the issue. Even though it's pointing at the solenoid, but it wasn't the issue. Could be the ECU is actually faulty, or the engine harness. So point of this video is understand that once you see this warning, it might not be something you could easily fix. So don't get me wrong that, oh, am I saying that it can't be fixed? It can be fixed. It could be the first thing you touch will be the problem and to solve it, or it could take you months, years, if not, or fortune trying to change almost everything. You might even end up changing the engine before the fault goes away, or changing the entire wiring harness and the ECU for the fault to go away. So but at least you now know what to look out for. Once you see this, I won't say don't buy, but if you have another better option, the one that doesn't have it at all, this warning at all, and every other thing checks out, yeah, it makes sense to go for that one, knowing that, I mean, you won't have that issue, rather than this one that you don't know what will eventually solve the problem, or how long it will take to solve it, or you might end up have to live with that warning. Like I said, most people that have had this warning, no issue, it doesn't damage engine, nothing. Like, especially if truly the issue is probably electrical, not mechanical. We realize that they'll be using the car months, even more than a year, too. No issue with the engine, performance remains the same. So in that case, you know, most times it could be truly is electrical that's causing it, not mechanical. Okay, so but like I said, I'm not sure. I've not been able to say, hey, this how, because what will solve one problem might not be what will solve the car B. Car A might have, it could be that it's the oil pump solenoid valve that solve the problem. For the car B, it could be the engine ECU or the wiring harness, or the oil pump with the solenoid complete will solve the problem. So as I say, I don't know for sure. Maybe somebody else has figured it out. What usually give this one? I call it like false warning. Like false warning, because most times you realize that those things are not actually faulty, but you keep getting this warning for no reason. So I call it false warning. But sometimes it could actually be real, that something is wrong inside the engine mechanically. So in that case, it's the sensors or the solenoid are doing their work. Okay. I don't think there's any other thing to talk about. Okay, so that's the. You don't know what to look out for. All right.